Welcome back to the Legal Insight podcast by HHQ, where we help you unpack the world of law, business, and tech. We're in season 2 now, and today marks episode 21, which is 1 year since we've launched this podcast. And when we started this podcast along with Johnson and Khai, it was really a brainchild, really to bridge the gap between legal developments in the technology world and business insights that are current and relevant to legal professionals and general counsels who may be too busy to read the legislations line by line, and hopefully some interesting topics in between. And now we're hitting the big number 21. In human years, we're legal to drink in the United States. And in Malaysia, we're certainly hoping that our content is maturing and we're getting better at this as well. And now for this special episode, we're thrilled to welcome back a familiar face, Derrick Leong, Head of Legal and Compliance at IX Swap. And he's certainly no stranger to us. He previously joined us in episodes 9 and 10, where we dove deep into digital assets, RWA, tokenization, crypto, fintech, and DeFi. Now, if you've been following the fintech scene, things are evolving at lightning speed, as always. We've had the Consumer Credit Bill 2025 discussed in our previous episodes, and now the Securities Commission has actually released its public consultation paper on the proposed regulatory framework for offering and dealing in tokenized capital markets products. And we've assembled just the right team for you today. Now, joining us are our Head of Technology Practice Group, Ong Johnson. Welcome to the show, Johnson.
Hi, good to see you.
Khai, co-head of the same group, and of course, Derrick Leong. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
It's good to be here.
Now, Johnson obviously had to move mountains to get Derrick here again. He's a busy man. Now, because of that effort, we're turning this into a 2-part series to unpack this proposed consultation paper or public consultation paper. Right. Now, Derrick, welcome back. It's been 6 months since we last spoke. How are things going on your end? Give us a little bit of update. Now, at this time of the recording, Bitcoin is, of course, almost at an all-time high, and everyone seems to be talking about tokenization again as the big frontier. So from where you sit now in the thick of the digital assets world, how do you see the current mood, the current feel in the crypto and fintech market?
Yeah, I think to summarize the current mood in a few words, what we're seeing right now is accelerating institutional conviction. So last year we saw massive inflows, right, with the Bitcoin ETFs. I think this year we are seeing the rise of what is known as Bitcoin treasury companies, led by Michael Saylor's strategy. You even have companies like GameStop, right, who have recently become a meme stock, setting up their own Bitcoin treasury. You have football clubs like PSG, if some of you are familiar, the recent champions of the UEFA Champions League. They've also set up their own Bitcoin treasury. And then you have other companies, MetaPlanet, other companies even setting up treasuries to hold other assets like Ethereum, other companies setting up treasuries to hold other types of asset like Ether and Solana as well. So we all know that traditionally Bitcoin has been a passive asset, right? Secure, scarce but non-yielding. People are just hodling their Bitcoin essentially. But institutions are now looking for more than that. They are actively seeking for ways to make it productive. So that's what we've been working on our side. We've just recently announced that we are launching something called the Bitcoin Real Yield product. And that's where this product of ours steps in. With the maturation of the RWA tokenization platforms and regulated infrastructure like what we have on IXS now, institutions can deposit their Bitcoin without selling or wrapping it, and they can use this deposited Bitcoin to generate income from fixed income, stable yield generating streams like money market funds, treasuries, bonds, private credit, things like that. We're quite excited to say our partners are some of the largest names in the crypto space right now. And we can't wait to see the traction that this brings to our platform. So all in all, what we're seeing now in the market is Bitcoin's being transformed from a dormant store of value to now a yield generating asset. Apart from that, I think since last we spoke, we launched a few other tokenized projects as well. So things like we launched a delta neutral fund a movie that's about to go on Netflix, and a private equity deal in an augmented and virtual reality company as well.
Wow, sounds like a lot has been going on since we last spoke.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. And when you talk about the products that you were launching, who exactly are the market that you're looking at, like to market these products to?
So in terms of the tokenized assets, it's still the same global retail audience that we're catering to. As for the Bitcoin real yield product, it's more so large institutions, Bitcoin treasury companies, which I mentioned. Apart from that, Bitcoin miners as well. So we're really looking at big tickets for this particular product.
Thanks, Derrick. We'll get back to that in a second. Now, Johnson, before we go deep into the consultation paper, I wanted to get your view on the larger picture, right? From your vantage point, you've been advising fintech clients in Malaysia and across the region. Now, what are the hottest developments or trends globally and locally that right now we should kind of be paying attention to?
Yes, Zach. So at this moment, almost all the clients that we are talking to right now, they are either talking about RWA tokenizations, or most recently it's about the very new stablecoin bill that was just recently passed in Hong Kong. So I would say that nearer to Malaysia, a lot of the clients that we are working with, they are in very active mood of trying to participate in the new regulatory sandbox that has just been launched by SC as well, Securities Commissions. And I would say that Malaysia, we are definitely not slowing down compared to the global scene, because very recently, Malaysia, our very own SC, has also launched a public consultation paper talking directly about the tokenization of capital market products, which we are going to discuss a lot deeper later. So I would say that in terms of the global market, especially for lawyers, for a team like us, they really focus a lot on fintech, blockchain, or anything in relation to RWA tokenizations. Things are getting a lot hotter in Malaysia. Things are getting very exciting as well, because I think that we are certainly heading towards the right direction. And I would say that RWA tokenization is finally getting a proper upgrade in terms of regulation.
Yeah. Wonderful news. Now, the other side of the coin, right, Khai, I know your team has also been running at full speed this year. Like, what has it been like on your side, on your end? Can you share with us what have you been busy with this year?
Thanks, Zach. And of course, certainly, I think I'd be happy to share. Without going too much into detail, I think in terms of crypto and blockchain related matters, Johnson and myself, we have advised and assisted our clients across a wide range of offerings, right? From the traditional or rather more conventional DEX operators to stablecoin or other companies looking to issue their own stablecoin, P2P fundraising using blockchain or rather distributed ledger technology, and also utility tokens. Of course, I think just last week or 2 weeks ago, we just spoke to another group of people who are looking to tokenize a PE fund or the fund's real estate investment portfolio, and another group looking to potentially conduct an IEO, right? Go through an initial exchange offering. So of course, I think when it comes to in Malaysia, closer to home, the digital asset and blockchain industry is certainly still gaining a lot of traction and garnering a lot of attention, or rather, I think some might say there is a renewed interest, probably and partly due to Trump's second presidency, right? So I think the industry is riding on that bandwagon.
Thanks for the update. Now let's get right into the core topic, and it's about to get a little bit technical, but that's why we have Derrick here. The SE's public consultation paper on tokenized capital market products is finally out, and it's drawing wide attention, rightly so. Now, the consultation will end, and it ends on 16 June 2025. Now, Derrick, for our listeners out there who may not be familiar with these concepts, go back to episodes 9 and 10 to listen first. But can you give us a foundational elementary 101 on what is it about? And maybe start with what tokenization is all about. Nothing too dense, just enough, probably and explain it like I'm 5 years old about tokenization.
Sure. I mean, to basically summarize it into a sentence, tokenization simply means creating a digital version of any real-world asset on the blockchain. So I'll give you an analogy just to break it down a bit more. And since we explain it to you as if you were 5 years old, let's assume we're all 5 years old.
I'm 5.
So you guys play with Lego growing up, right?
Yes.
Definitely.
I still play Lego.
So,
What do you mean growing up? We never stopped playing Lego.
so okay, you and Zach, you own an entire Lego set with many pieces.
Yeah.
One day you decide maybe you're not tired of playing with your Lego set, but you actually, you don't want to throw away your Lego set, but you want to maybe buy a new Lego set, or you want to buy some other toy to play with, right? But you still like your old Lego set, you maybe want to play with it from time to time. So what you do is you sell parts of your Lego set, not the whole thing, just a few bricks. And basically, imagine each brick now is represented by a digital token. So tokenization allows you to sell each brick, and now each of your friends that have bought a brick from you own a part of that Lego set. Okay. So each token is digital proof that that person who owns the token or who holds the token owns part of that set.
Yeah.
What's more is now you can use the funds or the money you've raised by selling parts of your set to buy new Lego sets or to buy other toys, right? And one day you can do the same thing with that new Lego set you've bought. Or you can sell the new Lego set to buy back pieces of the old Lego set that you initially first sold. So it's not just for Lego though, right? Tokenization can be done you can use tokenization for any sort of real asset, real estate, art, even concert tickets or financial instruments, which is what we're going to talk about today. So you can turn this into digital pieces that are easy to share, to sell, or to trade.
Right. Just in jest, right? Like, could you buy fried chicken in fractions?
Sure, if you want. You just have to ask Colonel Sanders.
All right. No, thanks. That was a really good explanation, Derrick. Yeah, I totally got that. Now, Johnson, from the consultation paper, right, tokenized capital market products may potentially be represented in two forms. Now, one is the digital twin representation token, and the other is the native token. And at this point, I am seriously lost and confused. Digital twin and native token, what is it?
It's
right?
mouthful.
Yeah, and we might need to take it slow here to understand what the difference are. And Johnson, can you please help us unpack it a little bit? And what is the real difference between these two forms of tokenized products?
Yes, very happy to see digital twin representation token and also native token. I can understand why there is actually a huge public confusion in the market right now ever since the consultation paper has been launched. So ultimately, when it comes to tokenizations, in a very general sense, anyone can actually tokenize anything using two very broad terms, two very broad manners. The first way is where you are going to tokenize a real existing products that is already available in the market. The second one is where the token itself is a product itself. So if you are thinking of from a very broad concept, one token actually reflects reality, another token is the new reality per se. So I do understand right now things become even blurrier. So let me use something that the corporate world would really understand. Let's talk about bonds. Bonds is something that I believe our audience should be very well familiar with, given that our audience are our general counsels and the corporate folks. So traditionally, companies will be able to issue bonds using a traditional way, and then they're able to actually sell the bonds in the market. So right now, if any company, they want to tokenize the bonds, as I mentioned earlier, they will be able to tokenize using two methods. The first method is after I issue the bonds using a traditional way, then after that, I tokenize that particular bond on blockchains using tokenization. Then in the case, the market participants, they will be able to be purchasing the token on blockchains. So this is what they call it, the digital twin representation token. The second way is a more creative way. So instead of using a traditional way of issuing bonds in the market, I directly issue bonds by way of token through tokenization. So it means in the real world market, there isn't such bond, but the bond only exists on the blockchain alone. So this is what we are calling it as the native tokens. So in reality, there are two types of tokens. I would say that it is a matter of preference. Some companies, they actually preferred to actually launch the real world product and then only tokenize it on blockchains, whereas some of the companies, they would prefer to directly launch that particular product on blockchain directly using the concept of native tokens.
Thanks, Johnson. I much preferred it when we used Legos.
I was just thinking, I think this poor 5 years old is going to have a nightmare tonight.
Yeah. Thanks, Johnson. That's clear. Now, Khai, as we understand from the consultation paper, the public consultation paper, it seems that SC at this moment is only trying to regulate and discuss more about what Johnson mentioned as the digital twin representation tokens, and not so much about native tokens. Now, paragraph 2.6 of the paper states that, and I'm going to read, the SC has adopted a phased approach in facilitating the offering and dealing in tokenized capital market products. As part of the next steps to further develop the existing regulatory framework, this consultation paper is intended to discuss the proposed framework for the offering and dealing of digital twin representation tokens only. Now, what do you think of this phased approach? Is it a wise move to regulate digital twin tokens first and then leave native tokens for the later part of it?
Yeah, thanks. And I think my personal view perhaps may not be a popular one. I think I am thinking from the perspective of which comes first, right? And I think when we talk about native tokens, we're not just talking about, say, a native token in a form of, say, bond or in a form of sukuk that is being issued without an underlying real-world assets, but rather just any kind of native digital asset here, Bitcoin, your Ethereum, and all the other cryptocurrencies, right? So I would think that all this, since they are, in a sense, the first iteration of digital assets, comparing native tokens and also digital twin representation, definitely native token, in my view, would be more widely in circulation and more widely adopted as well. So in a sense, from the perspective of which is more widely adopted, I would think that we should regulate issuance of native tokens first. And in Malaysia, native tokens are considered as securities as well, right? Assuming that all the other criteria of a security are met. But at the same time, however, I can appreciate why SC would want to regulate the digital twin representation first, right? And I will really break it down into two main points. Number one is because having a digital twin, regulating digital twin representations where a bond, for example, again, go back to the example of a bond or even shares, you have the underlying shares and underlying bond, and then you issue a digital twin representations of all these underlying assets. It has real world impact and it has real potential risk to the capital market, and hence why to regulate from this aspect first would be crucial to, in a sense, contain the risk to the wider capital market. And number two, I would say it's also growing industry interest and general trend, where the general trend is generally moving towards, and I dare say that general trend is really moving towards tokenization of capital market products as well. So that big institutions, larger institutions, financial institutions, investment institutions, they have a way in to the digital space. And hence why I would say, while if I'm in charge here, I may have done things differently, but at the same time, I can appreciate and totally understand where SC is
SC should hire you as their advisor.
Oh my goodness, I probably would just run it down.
So Derrick, I wanted to get a perspective as someone who's operating directly in this space. Now, do you think this staggered approach by SC is helpful, or should they be a little bit more ambitious? Some are even suggesting that both may be governed concurrently under a similar framework. Now, what is your take on this?
I think the digital twin model has actually already been around for some time, right? So if the SC merely adopts that approach, it wouldn't be very progressive in my humble opinion, because it's just acknowledging the structure that has already been in place for years now. So starting with the digital twin approach sounds safer maybe, but in practice, we already see or we already know that it comes with certain associated problems, right? So which record will be the final? Off-chain records versus on-chain records. There's legal uncertainty there. And then, there could be problems with reconciling both of these records, on-chain and off-chain, if they're not in sync. Problems like double counting, delays, inconsistencies, and particularly in offerings or tokens where there's very, very high transaction volumes, frequent transfers, right? So personally, I would advocate for the native token approach right from the off. So, of course, regulators will have to look at the particular blockchains where these tokenized capital markets products are issued on, and they would have to approve them. But I would advocate for the native token approach right away, because this would ensure that the blockchain remains the singular and ultimate source of truth. Efficiency as well, because instead of having to record things twice, now you have one record that represents the actual asset from a legal and practical perspective as well. So because the promise of the blockchain actually lies in, well, one of the core tenets is real-time ownership, transparency, speed, right? So that's why a native token approach, I would say, would be more in line with what the blockchain, what blockchain technology is all about. And I would say it's not just theoretical, actually. You know, if you look at examples abroad, in Dubai, you have the land department there that's already implementing a blockchain-based system for its land registry. So all in all, if I can summarize, my thoughts are that if you are tokenizing a product, but you still need a traditional registry and you're not capturing the full benefit of the technology in itself. We all know manual processes slow everything down. Plus, one more thing I should mention is that a big issue in the present state of the market is that because in a lot of products, off-chain registries are regulatorily mandated, a lot of times these type of assets cannot be tokenized directly, so you have to use SPVs, which basically create indirect ownership over the underlying assets and increases counterparty risk for token holders.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Derrick. Very clear. Now, Johnson, let's talk about the practicalities of it. How does the proposed framework actually work? Now, since it's, as you mentioned earlier, the digital twin of capital market products, is there even a need to comply now with existing regulations governing the capital market space?
Yeah.
And how should it even work? Maybe you can give us some examples.
Absolutely. So fortunately or unfortunately, I would say that the answer is extremely straightforward. So if you actually read through the public consultation paper issued by SC, they makes it extremely clear by saying that essentially the digital twin token is a digital twin of existing capital market products that's already available in the market. So SC, they make it very clear that on top of complying with the new additional tokenization requirements that is being proposed in the paper, in this particular paper, so if any issuers, they actually want to actually issue or to deal with these kind of new tokens, they should also be complying with the traditional existing regulations. So since we've been talking about bonds, so let me just use bonds. So let's say a company, they would want to issue bonds and also to tokenize bonds. So as we are all familiar, if you want to issue bonds, so LOLA guidelines is the relevant regulations in order for you to actually understand how you're supposed to issue and to sell bonds, right? So first of all, you need to fully comply with the LOLA guidelines and all the relevant and applicable regulation and laws. And then, in order for you to tokenize it, then you are supposed to comply with the new sets of regulations that's concerning tokenization. So I would say that moving forward, 2 sets of regulations or double compliance will be the new standards moving forward under this proposed framework.
Thanks, Johnson. Now, this seems like just a complex dance between 2 regulations,
Yes, so
2
correct.
compliance regimes.
So as mentioned by Derrick, which I fully agree. So to be honest, they are making things, maybe they are using a very simple approach by saying that, look, if I'm going to actually regulate these particular products, first of all, you yourself, you need to fully comply with the existing old law. And right now, since you have to tokenize it, you are going to comply with the new proposed tokenization regulation as well. So does this actually solve the problem, or does this actually improve the market efficiency? So I think that this is the reason why the public has a lot of debates, has a lot of concerns about this particular framework issued by SC as well.
Interesting. Now, next question would be to Khai, right? From a lawyer's point of view, there's this dance between, the traditional and the digital compliance regimes. Now, there are lawyers and departments that are familiar with capital market, regulations, and there are lawyers who are familiar with fintech regulations. Now, you are familiar with both. Therefore, this question would be, from the legal perspective, do you see this dance as a challenge? Is it something new? Is it something that's going to really challenge lawyers or challenge legal practitioners in this space?
Yeah, it is definitely going to be a challenge in a sense, for the simple reason that now a person who is looking to issue a digital twin representation of a capital market product, you're not just looking at one set of requirements, but two, right? And we all know that capital market is one of the most regulated industry pretty much in any country in the world, not just here in Malaysia. So oftentimes for a company to just even issue a traditional capital market product, it already takes an entire working group comprising of different discipline of advisors, legal, financial, business advisors, just to issue a capital market product. So for a blockchain company to venture into this area as well, I would say it is going to be a very tall order, particularly in Malaysia. The size of, or rather the outfit of a lot of these blockchain players, they are all startup, right? Resources will be a problem for them. They may be very familiar and experts when it comes to all things blockchain, but they may not when it comes to capital market products and also compliance related matters. So I would say that two things will happen. Number one is companies will either enter into joint venture or collaboration or consortium, right? Issuers of traditional and conventional capital market products, they will partner or engage the services of companies like IXSwap to offer blockchain as a service or to tokenize their existing capital market product or new capital market products to be issued through the issuance of digital twin. Or these companies will simply acquire and build their own capability when it comes to tokenizations. So I would think that with this, assuming that the regulations when it comes to tokenization of capital market products is to be rolled out through this model, considered under the consultation paper, that might be where the industry is heading to. Yeah. Not too sure if Derrick would bear the same sentiment.
Yeah, was gonna go to Derrick. Yeah, from the business side, what's your take actually?
No, I think both Khai and Johnson have hit the nail on the head there, because you're not availing yourself of the full benefit of blockchain technology, of speed and cost efficiency, if you are requiring issuers or IMOs to comply with two sets of regulations now instead of one. Right? You're just making things more complex. Again, I come back to what I say about blockchain tech, and one of its main value propositions is how much faster it is compared to traditional processes. The only thing slowing it down now is regulations.
Wow.
So we've already seen that a big hurdle in many jurisdictions, right, for tokenized projects to get to market is navigating regulatory requirements. That's why regulatory arbitrage is such a big thing, which basically means launching in countries with the most favorable regulations. Another issue, I think, just to add on to what these two have said, is possibility of conflict of laws, because I think the consultation proposes for two sets of laws to apply. So basically, one set of law applies to the underlying capital markets product, and another set to the tokenization process in and of itself. So what happens if your CMP or your capital markets product is located overseas, right, or is issued from a foreign jurisdiction? But your tokenization is done here. Then you have issues because there's uncertainty as to which country or jurisdiction's laws actually govern the CMP or tokenization aspect. So potential inconsistencies or trouble in legal interpretation there. So don't get me wrong, I'm in favor of regulations, but I personally would think that a more streamlined approach would better serve the entire industry.
Thanks, Derrick. Now, Khai, back to you. Now, since we're talking about tokenization, we can't talk about it without also mentioning DLT network. What kind of DLT network is used and whether it's public or private. Now, under paragraph 6.5, I'm going to read. As he proposes that an issuer and an RMO must assess the blockchain network used in light of the intended use, compliance requirements, and ensure there are proper controls in place to address the risks that may arise from the blockchain network used. Now, for instance, an issuer and an RMO should not use public permissionless blockchain without the necessary and proper controls in place. Now, Khai, can you start by helping our audience understand this paragraph? the key differences between public chains and private chains, and why this distinction is critical.
Yeah, thanks again. To explain public chain and private chain, again, to 5 years old, I would try my best. I would try my best.
Use the Legos again.
Right. Perhaps not Lego this time round. I would also like to draw an analogy. Back then, how I helped myself to understand what a public chain and a private chain, what public chains and private chains are essentially. I think they are very similar to how closed source and open source software work in a sense. Essentially, a public chain is maintained by the global community, whereas private chain is privately owned or controlled by a consortium. And because of this, the way that the chains operate differ. Public chain is pretty much accessible by anyone. It is decentralized and transparent. There are a lot of other differences as well, right? But I would just highlight on these three things. That public chain is public, accessible by everybody, decentralized nature, and also it's transparent. Essentially, anybody can go and check on the whatever that has been recorded on the chain. Whereas private chain is restricted to approved participants only. It is centralized and controlled by whoever that is maintaining the private chain. And the access to data stored is essentially controlled and monitored. So when it comes to regulation, I would say that some form of accessibility and ability to monitor and also to control would always be preferred. Take KYC, for example. If there's a need for KYC, the pseudonymization of a public blockchain where identities of participants are actually blocked behind hashes, in a sense. It may not be so suitable for KYC purposes. There may be technology around it, right? But I would think that's hurdle number one. So, and also due to customizability of private blockchains, it may be, again, preferred for regulated use due to its fast and more predictable performance when it comes to settlement and transactions. And at the same time, data privacy as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Khai. Now, Johnson, based on all the existing tokenization projects that your department is working on, is it true what Khai said, what's actually being preferred? Because I want to refer to paragraph 6.4. While public networks offer transparency and broad accessibility, they may present higher cyber risks, such as vulnerability to 51% attacks, where a group of persons or entities gain majority control of the hashing power and thus empowering them to alter or manipulate the blockchain or malicious network forks. In contrast, private networks offer greater control and customization, but may face challenges related to interoperability with other systems or networks. Now, Khai mentioned this earlier already, but I wanted to get your thoughts. Is private networks actually preferred?
Well, personally, with all due respect, I actually think that the logic and also the reasoning behind this statement made by SC in the public consultation paper is somewhat flawed. I know that SC, they are going to hate me now. I mean, they will probably ban me from entering into their office moving forward. Because SC, that in the paper, they actually mentioned that the public blockchain is vulnerable to a 51% attack. The moment a particular blockchain is being controlled, let's say by a majority, the moment any entity, they manage to control 51%, then they are able to manipulate, they're able to tamper with the blockchains. But isn't that the same case for private blockchains? Because we all know most of the time private blockchain is actually 100% owned by a single entity. It is actually more centralized than a public blockchain. So, I mean, as a crypto lawyer who happens to also specialize in cybersecurity, and then based on our actual observation and the use case of both public blockchain and also private blockchains, I actually think that most of the time, a major big public blockchain is actually more stable. And also when it comes to security, it's actually somewhat outshine a private blockchain that is owned by a small company. And seriously, when we are talking about public blockchains, whether is it in theory or in practice, do you know how difficult it is for any entity to actually own 51% of the public blockchain, whether we are talking about Polygon, Solana, or even like Ethereum? Whereas when we are talking about private blockchains, typically it's developed by the single entity. And then this is why when we are talking about the risk of manipulation, the risk of tampering, the risk of very low uptime, I would actually say that private chains carries way higher risk compared to a very reputable major public chain. So personally, I do not quite agree with the statement made by SC. I would actually think that a well-built public blockchain, when it comes to security, when it comes to the risk of tampering, is way lower comparing to a private chain. I'm not sure whether Derrick will agree with this statement.
110%. I mean, 110%. You took the words out of my mouth. That point is right on the point. When I was reading the consultation paper, that immediately came to mind. I personally prefer public chains, and these can be public permission chains, just to mitigate some of the concerns I saw in the paper.
Yep.
So, because public chains, just to go a bit further and to build on what Johnson said, it allows anybody essentially with an internet access, right, to verify any transactions that are made. Basically, what happens, you go online, you go to a blockchain explorer, and you can see any and all transactions that have occurred on that blockchain, right? Between addresses, what assets, amounts, etc. So anybody, regulators can look at it, token holders can look at it, anybody can look at it. So it's publicly available. So therefore, that's already a big factor in terms of security, right? Also, I think the other big point I have to add is that public chains are they are natively interoperable with other Web3 protocols. So they are much more scalable in terms of working with other infrastructure, right? Examples are other wallets, chains, oracles, or bridges, right? If you're on public major blockchains like Ethereum, there's so many that have already been built on it. So therefore, if you launch a token on that chain, you definitely have access automatically to a wide range of protocols and other functionalities within the Web3 ecosystem. And like Johnson said, right? I mean, if you are a large public blockchain that's been around for a long time, Ethereum, I keep coming back to Ethereum because they're the biggest for real assets. They're battle tested, highly secure, protected by large decentralized validator sets already. Coming back to the KYC point, when I talk about public permission chains. So yes, the blockchain in itself may be permissionless, but you can still implement permission controls at the protocol level, right? That's what we do at IXS as well, and many other protocols and apps do that. So essentially, it's basically, if you want to use an app, you have to KYC before you can. Right? You connect your wallet, but you're not allowed access until you KYC. So in that sense, one of the key concerns, KYC AML, is mitigated, right? From that perspective. And, the regulators can always define minimum standards in deciding which public chains to allow. History of uptime, reasons to attacks, whether there's an open ledger with verifiable records, and in terms of transparent governance processes when it comes to protocol changes or smart contract upgrades, right? Compatibility with KYC, AML, modules and frameworks, all these sorts of things, I think can be factored in to reduce a lot of the risk or concerns that I think the SC is kind of contemplating right now. And just to compare that with private chains, as Johnson and Khai mentioned, I think private chains are associated with centralized control. So meaning less transparency and reliability, right? So one party, the owner of that private chain, can always make changes as it deems fit. And it can be private as well. Nobody will know. And as I mentioned, the other drawback, which is very disadvantageous, is also it's not very compatible with other protocols, which means they'll be operating in silos. So I think I'm just skeptical that if private chains are the way to go, then there won't be much interest or utility. I think it will be you will see very, very little uptake if it's only private chains that will be allowed.
Agreed.
So that's the score is now public chain 0 and private chain 3. And that's the wrap of our episode. That's all the time we have for this episode, and we're really enjoying it thus far, guys. Now, please follow us for the next episode where we build on this Lego piece, right? We're just building it block by block now, and we'll continue talking more about public consultation paper on the proposed regulatory framework for offering and dealing in tokenized capital market products. Now, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned on the Legal Insight podcast by HHQ.